Begin the current Daf, Mesechus Yevamos Daf Kuf Tezva. Begin on the bottom line of Kufidal and Beis. But the Gemara has really explained the halacha of our Mishnah regarding times of war and this strife regarding believing the wife when she comes back and says that my husband died. The Gemara continues to explain different cases regarding this halacha. Also to the Jocelyn family. It's not from last week. This is a new simcha from Baruch Hashem. Should continue making simchas, everyone together. So what I'm discussing today's daf are the instances in which a woman is neman to say meis bali, like we say that's the topic of this Mishnah, of this parak, when she's believed to say her husband died. The question of eidech and neman muchamam. What's halacha? Not necessarily a woman, but if one witness comes along and says that the husband died in war. And the question of chashin shemepinan, are we concerned that if there's a vessel that it was emptied out and something else is in there or not? So begin the current daf, the bottom line could be down the base. We said in the Mishnah, this was the opening of our parak. She and her husband goes overseas. So he said it depends. If there's peace between her and him, and in the world, she comes, my husband died, she can get married, or she could do yibum because Isha will be daika mitzvah, and she'll avoid the chayim b'shechmat lebeseifa. So definitely we can trust what she's saying. If we said you're missing one of the variables, let's say there's peace between them, but there's war in the world, we said she's not believed because the Amr b'dadami, she's in the besab of Avnei Meis, v'kida avad samatri v'chaya, right? But it's not necessarily going to be the case, and therefore she's not going to believe. And if we said if there's katata b'nei, let's say they were fighting and there's shalom ba'olam, she's also not believed because like Rashi says, he writes a less asmalov because actually since she hates him, she actually wants him to become forbidden to him, and she's going to say, oh, my husband died, she's going to marry someone else, she's going to become forbidden, therefore we don't believe her in those cases. Now the Gemara begins, the following question was, so that was when if we know there's a war, if we don't know there's a war, what happens in the following case? Let's say we didn't know that there was a war in that country. She tells us there's a war in the country. What's the halacha? Would we believe her or not? So what's the question? The Gemara explains. Do we say what's called is a koyach hamigud called mali l'shaka? Why should I lie? We should discuss at length how that applies over here in this case and contrasting with other sugyas. But as the Gemara continues to have a protest and aleph, what does it mean mali l'shaka? The ibaya, if she wanted to, she could have said there was peace in the world. She would be believed. First of all, we didn't know there was such a milchama. And then when we said when there's shalom ba'olam, we believe the wife, they had a beautiful marriage and there's peace in the world. So if she would come back and say, my husband died overseas when we were on the trip, we would believe her. Now that she's saying that there's war in the world, we said, we don't believe you. Yeah, but I'm a mali l'shaker. I'm a koyach amiga. I could have said nothing. I could have just said that he died, and you would have thought there was shalom ba'olam, and I would have been believed. Now that I'm saying mucham ba'olam, you're not going to believe me because when there's mucham ba'olam, you don't believe me. But ma'al l'shak, why should I lie and say that he's? You think I'm lying when I'm saying that he's dead? If I wanted to lie, I wouldn't have said that it's mucham ba'olam. He would have believed me. So maybe with that koyach amigoy, she should be believed. Or maybe no, you're missing the boat. He can't say ma'al l'shaker because she's not intending to lie. That's not why we wouldn't believe her. Rather, kiven the chazka. Since she's establishing to us the premise that there's a milchama, so we actually do believe you. And the problem is amnu b'dadami. So we're going to say that she's going to presume, she's going to think he's dead. And therefore, a mal l'shaka cannot come ahead and remove that presumption of the wartime that we know there's a war and that she's going to think. So it's not like that we don't believe you. To the contrary, we actually do believe you. The problem is you think that he died because that's what happens in wartime. The bomb's falling. It's not, he for sure died. So if it was based on the mal l'shaka, we believe you, but it's not. It doesn't come down to that. Now Rashi says, wait a second. If you're going to ask, why don't you answer the question from the Mishnah? The Mishnah said, if there's shalom ba'olam, it's a little bit of cheshbon. Rashi says, if there's peace in the world, we believe her. Says Rashi, that most definitely has to be talking about when she says, my husband died in war. Why? Because if you think it means that he died on his bed, then why do you have to say there's peace in the world? The Gemara in the previous daf said that even when there's milchama ba'olam, if she says he died on his bed, we believe her. So most definitely when she's saying he died, it must mean he died at war. So that's the same thing as the case we're asking here in the Gemara, because it's shalom ba'olam, and she's saying he died at war, and you see that we believe her. So what's the Gemara's question? So the Gemara says, no, you have to explain the halacha of the Mishnah is when she said mace. She said without specifying. And the Mishnah is telling us, since there's peace in the world, even though she didn't explicitly say that he died on his bed, we're going to presume that he died on his bed. And when the Mishnah says when there's Muhammad in the world, when she says he died, we're presuming that she said he died at war, until she says that he died on his bed. The Gemara's question of Rava was that we're talking about where there is peace in the world. And she says not just mace, she says mace b'Muhammad. That's our question, would she be believing? Mal l'shaka, I didn't have to say Muhammad. So when the Mishnah was saying that mace, it was either Muhammad and she's saying that, in other words, when she says mace, it was that she's saying that he's mace, he mace al mitasa, that he died in wartime, that when there's shalom ba'olam, she said mace and mace bali, and she's saying, wait a second, he says, when she said mace, Mishnah was saying when the since is peace in the world, even though she didn't say I think he's saying that he explained the halach of the Mishnah that he's saying that for sure the mace b'Muhammad, trying to get that cheshbon. He said mace b'Muhammad. Okay, we'll come back to this. This is what Rashi was just Bavani saying that the Mishnah is not really saying that case, because the Mishnah is saying if there's Shalom O'Elam, she says mace, we presume that it means I see it. Okay, we'll come back to this. So anyway, so it says the Gemara. The question is, do you say Mal L'Shaker and she's going to be believable, or she doesn't say Mal L'Shaker? So that's what Tashma speaking right from the following brayso. Ishnu aleinu bias. If let's say she says that they smoked our house up, which is that they made a fire and they filled up with smoke, or Ishnu aleinu ma'ara, that we were in the cave and they lit the whole cave on fire. Who mace? He died, but in the Talmud, I was saved. So and that says the brayso ein nemesh. She's not believed to say that he's dead. Now, what's this case talking about? So she was machzik korugo dis mochama. We didn't know about this fire, and we're saying that she's not believed. Which is, we don't say mal l'shaka. If she wanted to, she could have just said that he died. She could have just said that he died, and we would have presumed shalom ba'olam. So what do you see? You see the answer to the question is that we don't say mal l'shaka. We don't believe her. Says the Gemara, no. Shani hasam, there is different in that case, because you know what she was saying? She was saying that the house filled up with smoke, and I fled, and she didn't wait until she see that he died. And if it's because of the smoke, that, and the Ger says, the Amrina law, we tell her, just like for you it happened the miracle that you fled, but the day also happened the miracle that he fled. So that's why we don't believe her. But regarding a war, we can say that she wouldn't have said that he's dead if she wanted to see him, because if she wanted to lie, so then she wouldn't have said it's a war. But there, we're saying that the smoke is she couldn't have seen anyway, and she escaped. So it could be he escaped too. So it's not a raya that for the case of Muhammad, maybe by Muhammad we would believe, or with a mal l'shaker that he actually did die. So the Masas Tash must bring another raya from a different raya. These non-Jews fell upon us. And list them, or these bandits fell upon us. And who makes he died when the Tzalti now was saved? Says the Brayso. So the menace, so she's believed. So over here, the raya is the opposite. Here she was machzik, this quote unquote Muhammad, and we say she's believed. So obviously we do say mal l'shaker. We say that even though she made it into Muhammad, which we don't usually believe her, we see we believe her. So no, Hasam could not eat you. There it's for a different reason, like a read of it. In other words, over here by a quote unquote minor war, where she was with him, she wouldn't say bididami. She wouldn't just speculate. Rather, she would wait. She would see that he died, because a woman is not afraid of bandits. Meaning, as Taisa had explained regarding Regal Muhammad, where bombs are falling and everything, and they're shooting all the arrows, she's going to run away. She's not going to wait to see that he died, because she might get shot too. Here, by the bandits, she's not afraid, and therefore she will wait. Why? Because the Rabbi Idi says in Mesechta Zara Daf Yomi, each woman klezaina allow. She has her weapons on her, which Rashi explains over there. The bandits are not going to kill the woman. Rather, they're going to be ba'al laha. And once they're ba'al laha, they're not going to kill her. And the woman knows that, and she's not afraid of the bandits. She knows they're not out to the man they want his money, they're going to kill him. Her, they don't want that. So she has her weapons on her. And therefore, that's why she's going to stay around, and therefore we're going to believe her. But generally, by wartime, we won't necessarily believe her. So we didn't answer the question. Now, the Gemara brings a story related to this, that Hahu Gavra, there was a certain person, the Bashili Hilule, at the end of the wedding, Itli Nuda Beginani. So a fire caught on by the house over there. And Amalu the Besu, so his wife said to the people around, Chazuk Abra, see my husband, see my husband. So also they saw Chazuk Gabra, they saw a man that he was consumed by fire, Charucha Dishti, that he was totally charred, Ufasta Dida Dishadya, and there was a piece of a hand that was laying over there. So Sabra of Chibar Aval Lamemer, he thought to say, Hainu Ishna Lena Bias, Ishna Lena Mav, which is quoted before when she said when there were cases when the house was on fire or the cave was on fire and smoked up, where we said that just like for you would happen the miracle, so to your husband can happen the miracle and she's not going to believe. So we can't assume that the husband died. So Amar Ravi says, "Mi says, how can you compare this to the case of Ishna Lena Ma'ava? Hasam like Ka'amar, there she didn't say Chazuk Abra, Chazuk Abra. First she didn't say, look at my husband, look at my husband. Here she's saying, like pointing to the guy who's on fire, that look at my husband, which we could presume that he's the one on fire. Here we have a man that's charred, and Upasta Yoda Deshad, we have a hand that's here that's laying on the floor charred. Definitely would seem to indicate that the husband did not survive. But Rabbi Ravin, he says no. He says Gabra Charucha Deshadya, this charred individual, I could say that someone else came to save, and he got consumed by the fire. And this hand that's laying here on the floor that's charred is from another man that came to save. Nudatalia, that the fire caught onto him, and Visila Bamuma. And what happened was that the husband, he got scarred. He got, let's say, his face got burnt off. Because of embarrassment, he went and he ran off. And that's why he's not here. But the fact that there's a guy here that's burnt and charred hand, it could be someone who came to save, and he could have just ran off, but he could have been saved just like you. And therefore, he says, no, it is just like the case of Ishla and Abayas. And therefore, since she didn't actually see him die, therefore she's not going to be believed to say that he's dead, that she could remarry. She's not going to be believed in that case. So that was the machlokes that they had. So this was all regarding when the woman herself, as our parak opened up, the Isha, she went and she comes and she says, the following question related, what's halacha with if let's say there's war in the world and there's a single witness comes along and says, your husband died. Ma, what's the halacha? Do we believe him or not? Which is very much related to like when the woman's believed and the Eid Echad is believed. Generally, we believe one person. What's the halacha over here? So the Gemara explains, what's the question? Why do we say that a single witness is believed? Because since ultimately it's going to be revealed, where if the husband's going to walk back, he's going to look like a liar, obviously, so he's not going to lie. So is not going to lie, which as Taisa explains, obviously it all comes down to the woman, but Al Kapanim, that there's a reason to believe what he's saying. Or maybe say no, because time of day, what's the reason why we believe one witness? Because we usually need two witnesses. Why do we let a woman remarry based on one? Because the woman herself is going to go, she hears the report, she's going to go and do investigative reports, and she's going to get married because she's afraid of, if she gets it wrong, she's going to be usher from both her first and her second husbands. But over here, she's not going to be careful and marry, where the way Rashi says it, is that because they're both going to be saying Bedadabi, because he's going to say, he was at war, he says, you don't understand what's going on, the bombs are falling everywhere, and we were in the building, and then she got shot, and this and that. And she's going to hear it, she's always going to presume, yeah, for sure he died, and her anxiety is going to be through the roof, and they're going to say, yeah, my husband's dead, my husband's dead, my husband's dead. And so maybe we don't believe. So that's the question. Do we believe because, like we usually believe in Elecha, because if he's alive, he's going to come Mal L'Shakar, or do we say that maybe we don't believe them because Leidaika Mitzvah? So Amar Rabbi Chame says, Tashim, I'll bring a ride from a Mishnah, Kavchav Bezim and Al. Amar Rabbi Kiva says, Kishidati l'Narda l'Abra Hashabah. When I went to Narda to make an Ibriya, which Tracy explains that all the Jom we have to do in Eretz Yisrael, there was certain times, certain great people that did it out of Eretz Yisrael. So he says, Mitzas Nechemia Ish Beis Dali. He says, I encountered Nechemia, the person from Beis Dali. Vamli said to me, Shemati, I heard, She'im Asinas Ish Eretz Yisrael, Al Pi Yedecha. That in Eretz Yisrael, they wouldn't let a woman get remarried based on a testimony of a single witness. And the only one who would let this is Rabbi ben Baba. So said Rabbi Kiva, who's saying over the story, says, and I said to him, yes, Kain Adram, it's exactly like you said. So this the Chemi-ish basically said to me, tell them in Eretz Yisrael my name, you know that this country that I'm in, that it's terrible with the different bandits that are all around. This is what I received from Rabbi Gamliel the elder. That you could make a woman get married based on the testimony of one witness. If one witness says that your husband died, that would be enough to get remarried. So that's what the Bryce says, the Mishnah says. Now the Gemara develops this right. What did he mean to say when he says that the country that I'm in is terrible with bandits? Lav, isn't he saying as follows? The Medina zu mishabesh is that even though this country is terrible with bandits, even so, still I received that you couldn't get married based on one witness, meaning that he's trying to say that this country is a war-torn country. There's gayosis everywhere. And even so, if one witness would come along and say to the woman, your husband died, you'd be able to get remarried. You see that a single witness is believed in Malchama. That's what he meant to say when he's saying that this Medina is Meshubesh is B'gayasis. So that answers our question. So the Gemara says, no, Amar Rabbi says, if that's the case, the Mashna Medina Zoo, why would he say specifically this country? You should have said, should have said any place where there's bandits all over, these different guerrilla factions, that you can go ahead and sell Eid after his Mehemet. Rather, Rabbi says, no, this is what he was saying. You know that this country is terrible where you walk outside, these guys are going to just kidnap you and take you. So I simply can't leave my family and come in front of the rabbis to come and testify, because if I walk out, I'm going to be kidnapped. But this is the tradition I received from Lil, that you can remarry, you could have a woman get remarried based on a single testimony in general. But you don't have any right regarding the case of Muhammad that you would believe Eidachad, so we still didn't answer the question. It wasn't talking about that. If a husband said, if a Eidachad said over here that a woman's husband died, then you would believe. He's saying in general that concept. So there's a story with two Talmudic scholars, that they were coming with Abba Yesi ben Simai on the boat, and the boat sank. And the Hesi Rebbe Nishasena Pinash. Rebbe married off their wives based on the testimony of these women. Now, the Gemara develops the right. I mean, these two individuals, these two Talmidei Chachamim, they sank. And the Gemara says, B'hamayim, now, regarding water, meaning at sea, Kamuchamadan, is like the category of wartime, because you could say, but the dummy, say, our guy, for sure he didn't survive. We were in the middle of the ocean. These guys fell overboard, these two. They were looking at something and they fell overboard. And so definitely it's applicable to say like Muhammad, but the dummy. Now, V'nashim, regarding women, Afilameya, even if you have 100 women, they were like, yeah, we received these two rabbis and they were leaning over and they fell off. 100 women in regarding to halachas of Eidus is like single witness. Women are not believed to be Eidim. They're like 1-8. And B'Kutani Hesi. And we see that he married their wife to remarry. So you see, Eid Echad is Neman B'Mulchama. Again, it's not Eid Echad, 100 women, and it's not Mulchama, it's by sea, but it's the same thing. So you must say, Tizbah, do you really think it makes sense what you're trying to prove? But Mayim She'elam Seif Ninu, out at sea is called waters that have no end. Which the Gemara in the last paragraph of Chaval Manal says that if you stand and you can't see all the four sides of the body of the water, meaning of the four boundaries, that's called waters that have no end. Which the halacha is Mayim She'elam Seif Ishta Asura. When you have a guy who drowns in waters that have no end, the wife can be forbidden, because even though you have kosher witnesses who say that we saw he drowned, but maybe he floated somewhere else beneath the water and they came out somewhere else, but you don't see, because you don't see all the four ends. So how can you say that we're going to believe the women over here that these two Talmidei drowned? You never believe, even when Aiden shared. So Ella Hechadami, rather obviously, what's the case talking about? That they said no askinu come on. They actually dragged them out of the water in front of us, as continued in the base, And Bechazinu L'Alta, we saw immediately these dead Talmidei Chachamim. And V'kamei Siman. And they're saying, identifying features. Because if they wouldn't give identifying features, says Rashi, we're concerned that maybe there are others. Rashi says because the water would change the form of the face and they wouldn't really be so recognizable. Tais says other shot in that. But they were saying simanim. So there's no raya to what we're discussing because the lavalai samchim, they're not really relying on the women, ela simanim. Which Tais says it must have been that there's what's called simanim levakim, if you hold simanim lavalai, right? So like some clearly distinctive identifying feature of these individuals, but it was the simanim shebai that went ahead and did it, and not so it wasn't about that they drowned, it was about that they actually pulled them out of the water. And they pulled them out of the water and they said, oh, those are the two rabbis that fell overboard.
The women are reporting this though, right? The same women.
Yeah.
Said that
No, not the wives. Some other women on the boat said that because it was the women, it would be back to the halacha of a woman. We're discussing the other question about of Eid Echad, saying 20 women saw it, it's like Eid Echad, and we're saying, oh, you see that we believe, but Muhammad said, no, it's no raya, because it's not about the dummy, we're not relying on them. It's that they took them out of the water and they saw simanim on them, and that's why he let the wives remarry, because they have identifying features as these were who died, that they pulled them out of the water. Now, actually relating to this halacha of the Brisa, Gemara introduces another discussion that's going to relate right back into this. Gemara says, "Hahu gabra the ifkid shum shemigabei chavri." There was a certain person that deposited sesame seeds by his friend. Somebody said to him, "Havli shoshmi, give me back my sesame seeds." Amalei says, "Shakaltina." What do you mean? I already returned to you. You already took them. So the one who gave him the deposit said, "What do you mean? V'chein v'chein habim." But this was this and this amount of quantity. V'chavisa ramin, and it was in that barrel. And they're still by you. Go check. You'll see, like the calculation I said, that somebody says that you have over there in your kitchen. Somebody says, the duck shall kaltinu. Yours you took already. And those that I have in my kitchen, those others, those are my sesame seeds. So, Rav Chizah thought to say that Hainu Shnei Talmidei Chacham. This is the story just brought in the previous brisa of the two Talmidei Chacham. That Rebbe allowed their wives to remarry based on the testimony of women. And what did we answer in the Gemara just there on the top of our Amid? We said because they said simanim. Okay, what about simanim? And we don't say that these are other people who died in these waters and that the simanim happened to be the same. Meaning we don't say that, oh, they left already. And these are others. No, we say that the Talmidei Chacham, the people who died, we say that the simanim are identifying features of these people. So also, the simanim are identifying features of this is my sesame seeds. And you don't say that, no, these are other ones that have the same simanim. So therefore, he has to give him back the sesame seeds. So like Rava said to him, he says, no, be dummy. Is it comparable? Hasam ka'amri simanim. There, by the Talmidei Chachamim, they said simanim. Hacha, by the Shum Shema, the sesame seeds, my siman is to. What type of simanim is he giving? But the comment, you're saying, that he said, what do you mean, is this and this amount of sesame seeds? I could say that it just happens to be the right calculation, and it could just happen to be. Which Tais discusses, we find Bamatzi that what I mean, that a number is a siman. So Tais says, yeah, that's when it's a very unique number. But here, it's like it's a generic number. You go to the candy store and they give you 32 sesame seeds and that those sugar sweet sesame seeds that my grandmother used to give out. Those the ones that you have the little rectangles. And then they give it 32. It says, yeah, you have one with 32. I have 32. We all have 32. It's a great kunz that you got the number. That wouldn't be a siman, and therefore it says that no, he wouldn't be able to prove that it's his sesame seeds. He doesn't have to give it back to him. But on that, Rav Ashi says, what do you mean? Are you really concerned that maybe it was cleared out, and if you have this guy has a prior siman, he's saying, look, I gave you sesame seeds, and there's 32, and go count. And the guy says, yeah, you gave me, but yours already would clear it out. And although these is the exact same amount that you gave me, these are other ones. That means to say you're concerned that maybe it was cleared out and there's something else to put in, even though it's the same as the siman that you give. Says are we really concerned that Shem Pina that maybe was cleared out? But by the time we're learning the Mishnah Ma'aser Sheni, it seems to say not like that. Mishnah says a matzah kli. Someone finds a vessel, b'chasol of kuf, has a nice kuf, a letter kuf on the vessel. You know what that means? That means to say that carbon. That means to say that money is sanctified for hektish to buy a carbon with it. If it has a mem on it, it means it's meiser. It's the type. If it has a dalas, it means demua. It means it's a mixture of chulin and truma that got mixed together, which it's put away in this vessel that has a dalit to know that it could only be eaten for a kain. If it has a tes on it, it means it's tevel, it's untyped produce. If it has a tuf, it means it's truma. It means truma like they would have these little marking guns on it, so you know what's inside of it. And the reason why explains the Mishnah is because Shebashas is because at the time of danger, when the non-Jews decreed that the Jews cannot perform mitzvahs, tough tachas truma, they would write a tough instead of truma. They shouldn't see, oh, truma, what is this? They just have a lot of tough. Only us, we know what it symbolizes, but not them. But one thing you see is that we don't say that maybe the produce that was in here that when you originally wrote the letter for was cleared out, and these are other things. You say, no, how do you know? Maybe you wrote a kuf, you put in the money for a carbon, and you cleared it out. That was 2 weeks ago. Now you needed somewhere to put your change, your pocket change, you put it down over here. You see that, no, you don't say Shem Pinan, you say that this is those. So if you don't say Shem Pinan, so why are we saying over here that, oh, maybe these are other monies and other sesame seeds and I don't have to give it back to you. Why should we presume that? Don't we see that we don't presume that? The Shlosh discusses how does it apply to Mammon as regarding Isser, but that's what the Gemara is comparing. So Amal Rabbeinu Ravashi says, what do you mean? And you think we would not concern that maybe it was cleared out? Ema Seba, look at the Seba, the other Tana. He says, he says, even if you find a barrel, truma, it's written not just a top, it says truma on it. He says, actually, no, we're not going to treat it as truma. We're going to treat it as chulin because we go based on the laws of majority. Because I'm going to say, yeah, Shtak can have a moli truma. Yesterday, the last week, at truma, opinion was cleared out. So we're going to presume it's actually chulin. So obviously, it's not necessarily that we're not concerned. We see we could be concerned. So Ella rather says the Gemara, what I can tell you why it's not difficult on Rava, because I can tell you the kulam chashin shampina. Actually, everyone is concerned that maybe it was cleared out. So what's b'hocha b'akamef? What are they disagreeing about? Marso Tanakama held that yes, okay, we could be concerned that maybe it's cleared out, but in Misa de Pinot, but if this case of the Mishnah Ma'aser Sheni would have been cleared out, so that, I mean, in our Mishnah, meaning regarding our case of the sesame seeds, everyone's going to hold like Rabbi that we believe the guy that he's saying yours is cleared out because we are Chashin Shemapina. But so what's the Mishnah Ma'aser Sheni of the Tanakama then that says that no, we're going to presume it's truma? Yeah, because if you had cleared out Michvah have a kafir, then you would have gone and you would have erased the letter. For the fact that the letter is still there, that would seem to indicate that this is truma, that this is temple, that this is ma'aser. Whereas V'idach Rabbi Yisi held, no, Eimer, you could say, Ishtaloi, Ishtaloi, and he forgot. Oftentimes people forget to go ahead and take off the sticker. Or Inami, Lefancha Yoshavke. No, to the contrary, you know why he actually left it on? Is because he wanted to protect the produce that's inside. He left that letter and he didn't take it off, so people should take away from it. When you write Gezel Gomer, it's the famous thing people take. You write Chol V'Stam, so no one's touching it, right? So he didn't write it's mine, don't touch. He left on it's takanat the Chol V'Stam, takachal Yisrael. But he left it on to keep people away. So therefore, it's not difficult on Rav. Everyone agrees that we would be concerned Shemapin. And the only question is, over here, when it has this letter, why does it have the letter? One time the whole has a letter, okay, so that's a right that you can clear it out. The one says, no, either he forgot to take off the letter or he deliberately left it on the letter, but it's not really a carbon or table or whatever. He left it on just to keep people away from his coke that he wanted, that shouldn't be, no one should drink before he has his dinner that night. Now, a related discussion to this question regarding the death of a husband. So he says, the Gemara says, Yitzchak Geresh Galusa. Yitzchak was the head of the leader of the diaspora, who was Bad Achse. He was the son of the sister, meaning he was the nephew to Rabibi. He was going from this place, Kurtava Taspamia, and he died. Now, Shalchem Hasan, they sent from there a notice, Yitzchak Geresh Galusa Bad Achse to Rabibi, and he passed away. That was the telegram that they got. Now, the question was like this. Are we concerned for two Yitzchaks? Meaning, the name is always called Yosef ben Shimon. It doesn't really, but that's like the generic term we use. So that's what Rashi is saying, Yosef and Shimon. But meaning, when we don't have an established knowledge that there's two Yosef and Shimons in one city. Meaning, this Yitzchak bar Rish bar Achse de Rabibi, we don't know of any other person with the same name. But would we be concerned that maybe there was another one, and therefore we can't just let his wife get remarried, or not? So it's a machlekes. Abaye Yomi says Cheshinan. We are concerned. You can't just let the wife marry. Maybe there was another Yitzchak. And Rav Ami says Leichachin. No, he says we're not concerned because we never had a chazaka that there was another such a person. Because as Rashi points out, if we did know there was such another Yitzchak, so of course he would agree, as the Gemara says later on the next step. But here we don't have any presumption of another such Yitzchak. So then we wouldn't. If we heard Yitzchak who was going from there to there died, we would say that his wife could get remarried. Right. Well, they said, Yitzchak. Right. No, there might have been. That's what I'm saying. There might have been another Yitzchak Ba'achse Rabibi. Who's also Resh Galusa? I don't know if Resh Galusa means that he's I don't know how many Resh Galusas there were, but maybe a leader or something. I don't know if it doesn't say Resh Galusa, if it means he was the only one, or if they said Resh Galusa. So that was the question about maybe there was another such a person. So Amabai says, the Nabi says, where do I know this from that we are concerned? He says, because I'll bring a riot. What is it?
He says there's only one Resh Galusa, but it could be Resh Galusa was his name.
It was his name.
It was his last name, just the Resh Galusa.
Okay.
Was less names then?
I don't know. It was like that was his name. Yitzchak Resh Galusa.
I mean, there were another, Yitzchak Resh Galusa. So it says that there was a certain get that was found Narda, and the woman was coming and claiming she wants her get. It was found, and she wants it. Now it said in the get that B'tzad Kolonia Masa, on the side of this city Kolonia, Ana Androlon Noi Naharda, me on the lawyer from Narda, Patris Besadechis is Polonis Antasi. I'm releasing this woman, my wife. And that was what it said in the get. Now, so this woman wanted her get. She says, this is my husband who divorced me, I dropped the get, I want. So the father Shmuel sent in front of Rabbi Yehuda in the sea the following question: what should we do with this? And he sent back. He says, look, go ahead, check throughout the whole registrar of Narda if there's such another person his name is Andulnoi, if there's such another person besides the husband of this woman who he was also Andulnoi, and see. Which obviously you see that we are concerned, says Abaya, even though we've never had such a chazaka, you see we're concerned. So he says the same things over here. That when this Yitzchak died, he was a Resh Galusa, but Achse Rabibi, maybe there's another person with the same name. How do we know that you can let the woman get remarried? Maybe there's another person with the same name. Just like you see over here where this woman, who's another Andalnoi, we never knew was such a person, we said, no, you have to go check. So you see with Chashinan. So Rabbi says, no. If it was true that you would be Chashinan, then Yivde Kala Ilme Boile. Then the truth is, you should have to check the whole world. Why? Because as Rashi explained, maybe there was another Andrunoi who was in Arda and he left. He could be anywhere now. You got to check the register of the global Jewish registry. So Ella rather says, Rava, it's not true. We're actually not Chashinan, like I hope. Rather, you wonder why Ibn Nasai said that? Was because he doesn't want him to feel stupid. And he says, what are you asking me something that it's unnecessary? You don't have to check, you don't have to be Chashinan. But he didn't want him to feel whatever. He says, oh yeah, taka, good idea. Go check, Narda, check the registry, where they are, and you'll see. But Rabbi says it can't be because he's Chashin. He's a Chashin, you should have checked the whole world. He just told him that you shouldn't feel bad. He said, taka, sheila gadol sha'alta, it's a taka very good. And Amar Rabbi says, not merely says, and how do I know this taka that I'm right? That we're not concerned. Because how the tradition started in Nafkim Mechuzah, there was these two documents that were produced in Mechuzah. Uksibu, and it said in them, Chavi bar Nanoi, and then Nanoi bar Chavi, that these were the names of the people. And Rabba bar Avuah, he went and he collected monies with these documents. Now the thing is, Chavi bar Nanoi, Nani bar Chavi, the Mechuzah, Shchitu, those names are very common names. And even so, he allowed them to collect when they produced these documents on others. And what? And we're not concerned that maybe it was someone else's. So since regarding monetary law, even though it's muhzik, that there's someone else with the same name, because many people have that name in Mechayza, we're not concerned that maybe it's really someone else. So regarding Isser, at least when it's loy huchzik, that there's someone else, for sure we're not going to be chashinan that it's someone else. Which Abaye, he says, no, it's not true. Because over there, it's continued up to the Zayin of an Aleph. Lamai necheshla. For the case of Rabbi Barabu that we just brought, that there was this document with Chavi Bar Nanai and Machavi, those are very common names. And you let him collect, well, what's the concern? And that is, Ilan Nafila, if you're saying, wait a second, how do we let them collect? Maybe the other Jacob, maybe he dropped it. And when this guy's producing it, how do I know you could collect it? There's a million guys that have the same name, and Abaya holds chashinan, so maybe we should be chashinan. And says no, Mizazir bar. People are careful with their documents. If you think that because maybe he deposited by him, but keeping the Shmei Kishmeis, since his name is the same name, he wouldn't deposit by him. So it's a Yoilidov, it's or whatever, Shmuel Steinberg, or whatever. It's like, and you're not going to give it to another Shmuel Steinberg because he has the same name. So of course he wouldn't deposit by him. So Mamre, what are you going to say? Dima Maserle? Maybe he actually gave it to him, but he didn't acquire from him yet with a kinyan, and maybe wants to back out. You can't have such a concern because Oisios letters, like for example, that's in a document, are nicknas b'mesira. They are acquired with just giving it over, even without a special kinyan, and he cannot back out. So therefore, it says Abai is no raya from over there. They're the reason why we allowed people with the same generic names to collect is because what's the concern? How can we be concerned? Not concerned for having it fall. Not concerned for deposit. You're not concerned that he gave it to him, but he really wants to back out because, again, that's nicknas b'mesira. The guy would never deposit with the guy the same name, and he'd be careful that it doesn't fall. But in general, of course, you'd be cheshina. It's just over there, it's not applicable. But in our case, where it definitely could be cheshinan, we would be concerned with that there might be another yitzchak, resh kalusa, but afsid rabibi, and the Rebbe says you can't just let the wife marry. You would have to go ahead and make sure and verify that there is no such other person. Thank you anytime for those things.